So, let's talk about Batterer Intervention Programs, or BIPs as they're often called. You've probably heard of them, right? But what are they really? Are they just some kind of souped-up anger management class? Or maybe a last-ditch effort at marriage counseling? Well, today we're going to cut right through all that confusion. We're going straight to the official standards to find out what these programs are actually designed to do, and just as importantly, what they're not.
All right, here's what we're going to break down. First, what a BIP even is. Then we'll get into why survivor safety is the absolute top priority. We'll look at how the programs are actually structured, what the curriculum looks like, the do's and the definite don'ts, and then we'll talk about why these programs can't work alone, and finally, get real about what completing a program actually means.
All right, let's jump right in. The biggest misconception, the one you hear all the time, is that these are just anger management classes. But that's really not it. The problem these programs are built to tackle is way more specific and a whole lot more complex than just a bad temper.
Which brings us to the core question, right? How do you actually stop a pattern of abuse? See, this isn't about someone who just loses their cool every now and then. We're talking about dismantling a calculated, deliberate pattern of behavior.
And the official standards are super clear on this. Battering isn't just, a slip-up or a moment of rage. It's defined as a pattern of assaultive and coercive behaviors. It's about using these attacks, whether they're physical, emotional, or psychological, for one reason: to gain power and control over a partner. Those two words are everything here: pattern and control.
So let's get one thing straight, because this is so important. A certified BIP is not couples counseling. It is not there to save a relationship. The one single solitary goal is to end the violence and abuse by making the person causing the harm take responsibility for what they've done. Period.
Okay, so if the whole thing is built on accountability, what does that look like in practice? Well, it all flows from one single, non-negotiable principle. The safety of the survivor comes first. Always.
And I'm not just paraphrasing here. This comes from a formal declaration of principles. It lays it all out. Number 1, survivor safety and rights are the highest priority. 2, the person using abuse is 100% responsible for their behavior. No excuses. 3, no form of abuse is ever okay. And 4, and this is a big one, these programs can't create accountability all by themselves.
And if you want to boil it all down to one sentence, here it is. It is not the survivor's job to hold the abuser accountable. That burden for change, for accountability, it lands squarely on the shoulders of the person causing the harm, and only them. Okay, so those are some powerful principles, but how do you actually build a program around them? Let's take a look inside and see how the structure itself is designed to enforce that accountability.
Right off the bat, forget about a weekend workshop or a quick course. The absolute minimum is 26 weeks. We're talking half a year, week in and week out. That alone tells you the kind of serious, long-term commitment it takes to even begin to address these behaviors.
And each of those weekly meetings, they have to be at least 90 minutes long. So this isn't some quick check-in. It is intensive, focused work every single week.
And another thing, participants have to pay for it. The standards are really specific about why this is a rule. Paying for your own service, well, it's seen as a concrete step. It's an act of taking responsibility, a tangible part of being held accountable.
So we've got the structure down: 26 weeks, 90 minutes, you pay your own way. But what in the world do they talk about in those sessions? Well, the curriculum is super specific. And it's not just about what they have to teach, but also about what they are absolutely, positively not allowed to do.
And this is where you really see the difference. On one side, you have what must be included, things like accepting full responsibility, understanding the tactics of power and control, building empathy for survivors, and learning about equality. But look at the other side. What is banned? No blaming the victim, ever. No so-called rage techniques like punching pillows. You can't treat violence like it's an addiction, and you absolutely cannot do couples or family counseling. And using substance abuse as an excuse? Nope, not allowed. It's all about accountability, not finding a new way to make excuses.
Now remember that principle we mentioned earlier, that these programs can't do it all by themselves? This is huge. A BIP is designed to be just one piece of a much larger puzzle, what's called a coordinated community effort.
Yeah, the standards basically say it flat out. A Batterer Intervention Program can't just exist in a vacuum. For it to have any real shot at working, it has to be part of a bigger system where the whole community is on the same page, sending one clear message: violence is not acceptable, period.
So what does that community response actually look like? Well, think of it as a whole network of people and agencies all working together. You've got domestic violence programs, law enforcement, the courts, judges, probation and parole officers. You have hospitals and mental health agencies, children's protective services, even clergy, faith communities, and schools. The idea is to create accountability from every single angle, all with that one shared goal: keeping survivors safe.
Okay, which leads us to our last and honestly, maybe the most critical point. After those 26 weeks, after all that work, what does it actually mean to complete the program? This is where the standards give us a pretty sobering reality check.
So to get that certificate of completion, you have to hit these minimums. You've got to fulfill all the program's guidelines, pay all your fees, take responsibility for your actions without blaming anyone else, and you have to show that you understand there are other ways to behave besides abuse. But notice that word, minimums. This is just the starting line, not the finish line. And this right here is probably the most important thing to remember from all of this. The standards couldn't be clearer. No one should ever be considered cured or non-abusive just because they finished one of these programs. It is not a guarantee of safety. All it means is that they've checked the boxes and met the minimum requirements of this one single piece of a much bigger system.
So where does that leave us? It's a pretty challenging thought, isn't it? If even these intense, 26-week-long, highly regulated programs can't guarantee someone is safe, what does that say? Well, it pushes the responsibility back out, to all of us. It makes you think, what is our collective role? What's our part in building a community where abuse just isn't tolerated, and where safety isn't just one person's job, but something we all work towards together?